it's all about this whole fight on legalization and worrying about drug law and all those kinds of things. It always boils down to the kids. And what are we saying to the kids, and what are we doing with the kids, and all that kind of stuff. And I want to talk about that. I want to talk about that and what we are going to do about it and what people are doing about it. And there's so many different perspectives. There are parents who are consumers. They use and consume cannabis. There are parents who are patients. There are parents who are both of those things. There are parents who have kids who are patients or could be patients. There are parents who don't really have a dog in the fight, but don't know what to say to their kids about cannabis, especially in light of Colorado and Washington state's law changes. They don't know how to switch gears after all of these years, and it's confusing. And I think what makes it more confusing is these groups that say that they speak for the kids. You know what? It's like the Lorax of parenting in the marijuana world. They're the only ones that speak for the children. Well, you know what? I speak for my kid and my parenting, and I hope I can speak for other parents. At least I've had conversations with other parents about the topic, and I just think that there's so many confusing, difficult aspects. I mean, parenting is hard enough without having people judge you for a whole bunch of different things, without having people give you information that's not correct. And isn't this true that people they quote things like they're facts because they read an article on Facebook? Or worse yet, they read the title of an article on Facebook and chose to share that article, and then they know nothing about anything, and they think that that's the truth. And I mean, I just think it's hard. I just think it's really hard. And so today I want to spend some time piecing through the parenting puzzle. And I'm not really claiming to have any answers. I know in previous shows I have talked about the ways in which we can talk to our kids about cannabis, and I've talked about the ways in which different groups talk about cannabis, and so we can dispel some issues and rumors and those kinds of things. But the reality is, I mean, you as a parent have to make a decision about the message that you want to send your kid, and you have to be consistent with that message. And it's not hard necessarily, but it's time consuming. You have to really have taken the time to stop and think about what that message should be and how you're going to frame that message. I mean, for me, part of the message is that I want my kid to have enough information, age-appropriate information, so that he makes really smart decisions as he gets older and has those decisions to make. At this point in time, I'm arming my kid with enough information so that if someone says something negative about cannabis, he knows in his mind what the truth is and can filter that, because I think it's awfully confusing when an adult figure says to somebody, cannabis is wrong, and all of his life he's been taught by his family and the people that are close to us that cannabis isn't wrong. And that's not okay, and that's confusing. And so I have to explain to him that different people have different amounts of information, and different people have been taught different things. And here's where we get our information from, and here's what it is. And those other people might say things that are different than what we're saying because they don't know the same information that we have, or they're choosing to believe this age-old information. So part of the message is for us is giving all of the information, giving all of the truth, and then being okay with saying I don't know the answer. I don't know what that looks like. But here's our philosophical framework. Our philosophical framework is that cannabis is not wrong or bad, and what's wrong or bad about it is that it's illegal. according to the federal government in lots of states, and that makes it wrong or bad. It's interesting. I did a little checking, and I've done this before, just in a slightly different way, about how different places on the internet that are geared towards kids, how they talk about cannabis. And there's some that are really definitely not the same framework that I come from. But I went to pbskids.com. They have a pretty great website. Obviously, PBS Kids is geared towards younger kids, and they have a section on their website called It's My Life, and they have a subsection called My Body, and they have a section on marijuana, and it's called Drug Abuse: Marijuana. So when I read it, I was like, crap. If you call it drug abuse: marijuana, then you're setting it up to mean that it's going to be negative towards marijuana, right? No. So here's the one pager on cbskids.com. I'm sorry, pbskids.com. Did I say CBS Kids? No. pbskids.com. It's My Life, My Body. Drug abuse: marijuana, also known as pot, grass, weed, herb, Mary Jane, hemp, skunkweed, chronic, or joints. So good. Give the kids some verbiage, and those are all phrases that people use and have been heard of before. So it's not like they took these random crazy terms that no one really uses and threw them out there. What it is: marijuana is the most commonly used illegal drug in the United States. It's what gets produced when someone takes the hemp plant and grounds up the leaves, stems, flowers, and seeds. Not exactly true, but we can move forward with that. I mean, I'm not. It's not exactly true, obviously. Then it goes on to say that the active ingredients in marijuana is a chemical called THC, but it also contains over 400 other chemicals. It's usually brown, green, or grayish in color and has a very noticeable smell. Marijuana is usually smoked and sometimes eaten. So I appreciate that. I mean, Sanjay Gupta didn't even talk about the fact that there are more than 400 other cannabinoids in the plant. It's confusing for kids that they say that it's the hemp plant and that you ground up all the leaves, stems, flowers, and seeds. That's confusing, but okay. I'm still going to go with this, and I'm still not upset about it. Next is people who use it may experience changes in the senses, like seeing and hearing things differently or feeling extra sensitive on your skin, dizziness, trouble with walking or coordination, laughing and or finding everything funny, slow thinking, slow reflexes, slow speech, red eyes, thirst and dry mouth, hunger, anxiety, and paranoia, which is the feeling that people are out to get you or that something bad will happen. All of that is accurate. All of that is accurate. None of that is said in a judgmental way, and I can live with all that. Next is the big serious health risks are memory and learning problems, difficulty with thinking, increased heart rate, possible increased risk of cancer. Okay, I take some issue with that. I have no idea where they get that from other than the whole smoking controversy. Increased risk of pneumonia, which again is based on smoking. Anytime you ingest something in your lungs. Coughing, wheezing, and other breathing problems. Would have preferred that they say that these are short-lived issues when you actually smoke something, but okay. Increased risks of cold infections. So all of those things are based on things that happen when someone smokes something. Someone smokes something, you put it in your lungs, those things are all potentials. Even those negative things, I can live with that. I don't think that that's a terrible way to describe some of the health risks. And those are the serious health risks. They don't say that you're going to die. They don't say that you're going to get schizophrenia. They don't say that you're going to kill your bunny rabbit. They don't say that you're going to skip school. They don't say that you're going to be a loser human being. They give some examples of some what they consider serious health risks. And in the scheme of things, I can live with that. And then the last paragraph on PBS Kids' explanation about marijuana is using marijuana is a big deal because. So before I read this, I was like, uh-oh, here we go. This is where we're going to have the big hit, and I'm going to not want to watch PBS Kids ever again. First one, no matter what you've heard, Police officers, judges, and government leaders take marijuana very seriously, and the consequences of getting caught with it can be very tough. Truth. Truth. That is the number one reason that they give, the first reason that they give about why using marijuana is a big deal. It's a big deal because it's not legal. So you take that away, and you take away the first reason that they say that using marijuana is a big deal. I just think that that's fantastic. I think that that's true. And I think that that's a great thing to tell our kids. What's wrong with this plant is that the government leaders take it seriously and can get you in trouble. The second reason that they give about using marijuana and that it's a big deal is, like alcohol, marijuana affects a person's judgment and slows down reflexes, making it very dangerous and also illegal to drive a car while under its influence. Excuse me. Truth. Despite the fact that there have been lots of roadside tests and certainly people who have developed a tolerance to marijuana and our chronic users are accustomed to having high levels, high nanogram levels in their bloods stream, the fact of the matter is it can impair people, and you shouldn't drive while impaired at all, no matter what you're impaired by, period. So truth, absolutely truth. Next reason why using marijuana is a big deal, according to PBSKids.com. While most doctors and scientists don't consider marijuana physically addictive, it can still be habit forming because users get used to being on the drug. Okay, I think there's probably some accuracy in habit forming kinds of things, like those of us. I mean, I drink coffee every morning. I drink decaf. I'm not using it because I need to wake up in the morning. It's part of my daily ritual. I get up, I like to make a fresh pot of coffee, I like to sip it while it's really hot, I like to sit down. I mean, okay, so I have a habit forming, or I've developed a habit of drinking coffee every morning. So it may not be physically addictive to me, but certainly I have that habit. Same thing can be true for smoking marijuana. Truth. And then the last one. Marijuana can rob a people of energy and ambition, meaning that they will be less likely to succeed and make something out of their lives. The classic pothead doesn't really want to do much more than get more pot. So we did really, really, really well, PBS Kids, up until that line. Up until there. I think that everything else was true and accurate, and then the parting words were propaganda. I think that there are lots of very, very successful people who smoke cannabis regularly, who use cannabis regularly and in large amounts. And the whole idea that people aren't successful because they use marijuana is outrageously outdated. So PBSKids.com, it's my life, my body, drug abuse, marijuana. Overall, I give you a B-. I would have given you an A had we not had that line. But you know what? Overall, I mean, I think you can talk your kids through this. This is a good way for kids to learn about marijuana. Again, my favorite part of the whole thing is let's talk about the fact that you shouldn't use it because it's illegal, and it'll still be illegal for you until you're 21 in Colorado and in Washington State. So we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back and we're going to talk about some other things that I found on the internet that are teaching our kids about marijuana, and then what some struggles that parents are having. I'm Georgia, and you're listening to iCannabis Radio. High up in the Rockies is beautiful Frisco, Colorado. Medical Marijuana of the Rockies is a medical marijuana center with compassion for Colorado's medical patients. Looking for great meds grown organically in soil? You've come to the right place. Medical Marijuana of the Rockies is just off I-70 at exit 203. Check them out at the web at www.mmrockies.com. Their ever-changing strain and clone selection is updated on the website daily. When making a trip to the mountains, no matter the season, stop by Medical Marijuana of the Rockies. Make sure you say you heard about them on iCannabis Radio. You can call 970 800-668-MEDS to get more information. Medical Marijuana of the Rockies, your mountain source for meds.
Whether you are a commercial grower or cultivate as a hobby, No Dough Urban Garden Supply is Denver's first stop for your hydroponic grow needs. With a wide range of products including House and Garden, Botanicare, and Fox Farm, their knowledgeable staff can get you started on your first garden or help you with your well-established business. No Dough Urban Garden Supply is located in downtown Denver at 1330 27th Street, 4 blocks north of Coors Field near MMD of Colorado. They are open 6 days a week from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. Call 303-296-3424 or visit them on the web at www.nodoughurbangardensupply.com.
Green Faith Ministry is for spiritual guidance, MMJ information, and networking combined with compassionate care on the way to enlightenment with all Green Faith sacraments. Green Faith provides charity assistance, including medical and food throughout the year. Contact them at greenfaithministry.com.
Hi, welcome back. So again, check it out, pbskids.com. It's my life, it's my body, a little bit of marijuana information. Now, I also checked out University of Washington's site, Neuroscience for Kids. How many kids are really interested in neuroscience? I mean, probably not a lot, but it's out there. And when you Google kind of information about marijuana and kids, which a lot of us do to help us with our parenting and get more information, this is what pops up. So Neuroscience for Kids, marijuana. And we're not going to go through the whole thing. It's fairly lengthy, but it does have some good information. Marijuana is one of the world's most commonly used illegal drugs. There are approximately 300 million users worldwide and 28 million users in the United States, but that's based on information from 1997. Marijuana comes from a plant called Cannabis sativa. The chemical in this plant that produces the altered states of consciousness is called delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol, or THC. Marijuana is usually smoked like a cigarette, but it also can be cooked into baked goods like brownies or cookies, or brewed like tea. THC is considered also contained in hashish, which is the resin from marijuana plants. Hash is usually smoked in a pipe. Other names for marijuana include grass, pot, reefer, and weed. Then it goes on to talk about the effects of marijuana on the nervous system. So my kid would be lost already, but that's okay. This is really hopefully to help parents talk to their kids a little bit about marijuana. It says THC acts on cannabinoid receptors, which are found on neurons in many places in the brain. So this does come from the perspective and recognizes that there are indeed natural cannabinoid receptors in the brain. These brain areas are also involved in memory, concentration, perception, and movement. When THC activates cannabinoid receptors, it interferes with normal functioning of these brain areas. In low to medium doses, marijuana causes relaxation, reduced coordination, reduced blood pressure, sleepiness, disruption in attention, an altered sense of time and space, a good reason not to drive or operate machinery while under the influence. Okay, so those are all pretty accurate. Then it says in high doses, marijuana can cause hallucinations, delusions, impaired memory, and disorientation. So scientists have known for a long time that THC interacted with cannabinoid receptors in the brain, but did not know why the brain would have such receptors. They thought that the brain must make some kind of substance that naturally acted on these receptors. And in 1992, they found the answer. Anandamide, the brain's own THC, just like an endorphin in the brain's own morphine. Still, scientists are not sure the function in the normal brain. The effects of marijuana start as soon as 1 to 10 minutes after it's taken and can last 3 to 4 hours or even longer. Experiments have shown that THC can affect 2 neurotransmitters, norepinephrine and dopamine. Serotonin and GABA levels may also be altered. Whether marijuana can produce addiction is controversial. Also controversial is whether marijuana causes long-term mental abnormalities. Only future research will give us the answers, which I think is great. Why not just put that information out there? Say they don't know, but give people food for thought. These are things that you need to keep in mind. These are things that you need to pay attention to. If you're going to use this substance, you should know all the information, which unfortunately doesn't happen with alcohol. I wish there was this much information about alcohol so that people could pay attention to that. I hope that there's this much information about things like prescription drugs as well, so we can have those conversations with this information. And then it goes on to say that it's interesting to note that there are no documented cases of a fatal overdose produced by marijuana. However, because there's a high level of tar and other chemicals in marijuana, smoking it is similar to smoking cigarettes. The lungs get a big dose of chemicals that increase the chances of lung problems and cancer later in life. Not so sure about that, but would love to find out and have studies on people who don't smoke cigarettes, don't smoke blunts either, because of course there's tobacco and blunt wraps, and only smoke cannabis. Then the next, and they have these pictures, and the pictures are kind of funny. There's a picture of brown product. I don't know what it is. And then there's a picture of what's probably hash, but looks really weird. And then this black stuff. So black tar something. The next piece on neuroscience for kids marijuana is how long does THC stay in your body and for how long can it be detected after you use marijuana? Great question. The amount of time depends on several factors such as how much a person has smoked, how long a person has smoked for, and the method used to detect THC or its metabolites. Marijuana can be detected in urine, blood, and saliva using methods called thin layer chromatography, high pressure liquid chromatography, gas, I can't speak, and not because I've used marijuana, gas chromatography, enzyme immunoassay, and radio immunoassay, whatever. The most psychoactive ingredient in marijuana is THC. THC is broken down into several other compounds that are also psychoactive. The half-life of THC is about 24 hours. However, the metabolites of THC can be detected for 45 to 60 days after the last use. And then it goes on to pick up some information that is really quite old. From 1991, approximately half of the THC is excreted over several days and the remainder by the end of a week. However, some metabolites of THC, a number of which may still be active in the system, can be detected in the body at least 30 days following ingestion of a single dose and following chronic use in the urine for several weeks. Then just some factoids on neuroscience for kids. In 1969, the American Medical Association, Journal of American Medical Association, published a paper that described the psychoactive effects of catnip in people. People who smoked catnip were said to become happy and relaxed. Catnip does cause most cats to act strangely. They roll around, shake their heads, rub against things, and try to get the plant all over their bodies. Interestingly, cats are only affected when they smell it. It has no effect if they eat it. It appears that catnip has little or no psychoactive effect in people. Actually, in the 1969 JAMA paper, the authors mislabeled the pictures of marijuana and catnip. They labeled the pictures of marijuana as catnip and that of catnip as marijuana. So that's kind of funny. Catnip, people aren't smoking catnip in 1969. Other kind of interesting facts that they tell you, THC was identified as the major psychoactive chemical in marijuana in 1964, and marijuana contains more than 400 different chemicals. So they give this information. They give pretty good information, and I think that piece, in conjunction with the PBS Kids piece, does give some pretty age-appropriate information for younger kids, for tween and under. I think that those are good pieces to pull from. And you know, I'm not going to say that everything is positive and hunky-dory all the time. I mean, I think that there are positives and negatives. And certainly there are lots of negatives to kids using marijuana outside of using it medically. And I know that I want my kid to know all of that stuff when he's making a decision when he's older. And so those are the kinds of things that have been put out there, which I think is so radically different than what we've seen in the past. All these like really negative things about and scare tactic things about kids using marijuana. And what's interesting to me is obviously those weren't put out by anti-drug groups, which is normally there's a pro-drug group and there's an anti-drug group, and they put their information out there, and then you kind of choose from it. These are pretty no dog in the fight organizations. They are neutral on the topic, and they're just trying to get information out there. PBS Kids, in particular, to me, is really interesting because they're just providing good information. That's all that they're trying to do. No dog in the fight. And so, speaking of dog in the fight, as we started off talking about, I mean, one of the real big issues right now is that in trying to help bridge this new world of legalized cannabis in Colorado and Washington, and wherever those two states goes, so goes the nation. Again, it all comes down to the kids and who's speaking for the kids and how are we going to protect those children from recreational marijuana. And a couple of interesting articles have come out, one of which is, can states protect kids from recreational marijuana? When the U.S. Justice Department promised not to prosecute illegal marijuana sales that were planned to begin in Washington state and Colorado, its top lawyers demanded that states reciprocate with a pledge to keep the drug away from minors. I'll take that pledge. No officials in those pioneering pot states where recreational use of marijuana was approved by voters says they're ready to comply. But to legalization opponents, such promises are a pipe dream destined to fail. They say it's more likely that the U.S. will unleash a new industry that will try hard to attract young users and turn them into addicts, which I think is outrageous. I think it's ridiculous. Any more than the alcohol industry is trying to put alcohol in baby bottles. Kids are going to be bombarded with this. They're already getting the message that it's acceptable, says Kevin Sabet, a legalization opponent and director of the University of Florida Drug Policy Institute, who served as an advisor on drug issues to the President Barack Obama and former presidents George W. Bush and Bill Clinton. With polls showing support for legalizing marijuana on the rise, questions about how it would affect children remain. The debate has intensified as moratorium for legalization builds. As momentum for legalization builds and as the research shows increased marijuana use among youngsters. More teens are now smoking pot than tobacco, believing that it's safer because it is. Because it is safer. And if you have to choose, if your kid is going to be doing one thing or the other, my God, we know cigarettes kill. We know. Legalization backers say they're just as eager to protect kids as opponents, and they say that public has no reason to worry if the drug is sold openly in stores instead of on the streets. In fact, I'd be less concerned in a regulated market than I would be on the street. Quote, forcing marijuana sales into the underground market is the worst possible policy when it comes to protecting our young people, says our friend Mason Tvert, spokesperson for the Marijuana Policy Project, a pro-legalization group. Quote, it is odd that those who wish to keep marijuana out of the hands of kids are fighting to keep it as uncontrolled as possible, end quote. Sabet's hoping that history will repeat itself and the tide will turn against legalization as it did in the late 1970s when baby boomers began questioning how the drug would affect kids. It's really important to talk about the outcome for children, he said. This is not just about the 45-year-old otherwise responsible adult smoking weed once a week in their basement. Teens already are more likely to smoke pot than tobacco, according to a study released in December by the National Institute on Drug Abuse at the University of Michigan. In 2012, 23% of high school seniors reported using marijuana in the past month, while 17% of the seniors said that they had smoked tobacco. As recently as 2008, high school seniors were more likely to smoke cigarettes than marijuana. I think that's progress right there. The study reported similar findings in the past month. Use for students in younger grades. 17% of 10th graders had used marijuana compared to 11% who had smoked cigarettes. Among 8th graders, 6.5% had smoked pot compared to 5% who had smoked tobacco. And really what I got to tell you is that I don't want my kid doing either. I want my kid to wait. I want kids to have enough information. I understand about peer pressure, but if there's a way we can give these kids this information and tell them really the preference is that they just hold off on making decisions like that. It's probably pretty unrealistic, but nonetheless, that would be my preference. So the article goes on to talk about how challenging it's going to be, this mixed message that we're sending kids and adults, and this legalization thing is really confusing. I don't think it's confusing. I mean, I think we can do a good job of helping parents and helping educators talk through what the difference is. The difference is that this is a substance that should never have been illegal to begin with, and it is far less harmful than lots of other substances. And we're saying, just like alcohol and just like cigarettes, these aren't intended for children. Doesn't seem that complicated to me. But we're going to take a break because it's that time already. The show's going by fast. And when we come back, we're going to talk about what parents have to deal with when they or their kids use marijuana. I'm Georgia, and you're listening to iCannabis Radio. We'll be back in a second.
Are you a medical marijuana patient or interested in finding out how to become one? Contact Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern. Conveniently located on Hamden and Tamarack in the Whole Foods parking lot behind Proof of the Pudding. Mile High Wellness offers a wide variety of edibles, hashes, and some of Colorado's top strains. Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern. 3525 South Tamarack, Suite 110, on the corner of Hamden and Tamarack. 720-382-8516. Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern.
The Law Office of Edson, Mayton, and Matz provides criminal defense, family law, medical marijuana defense, and advice about setting up and running a medical marijuana center, optional premises cultivation operation, and infused product manufacturing businesses throughout the state of Colorado. We're focused on providing high-quality service and customer satisfaction. We will do everything we can to meet your expectations. WarrenEdson.com. Edson, Mayton, and Matz in Denver, 303-831-8188, and in Aspen, 970-948-7183. WarrenEdson.com.
Hi, you're listening to my mom, Georgia Edson, on iCannabisRadio.com.
Hi, welcome back. We're going to have to change that in a couple weeks, aren't we? Yeah, that's going to be cool. So welcome back. I'm Georgia, and we are talking about parenting. I like to do this every once in a while because it's what a lot of us do every second of every day, and kind of the way that we look at every issue is how do you turn around and teach your kid about this, or how do you turn around and explain something to your kid, or put something in the back of your mind that you say, gosh, that's a tool that I want to use later on when that question comes up or when the time comes up. If parenting were just about getting kids to do their homework and clean behind their ears and floss every once in a while, God, it would be so much easier. But it's not that easy. Things get so confusing. And our government, unfortunately, while they're not working right now because they have shut down the government, they don't make it any easier for us. And we've talked about several families who have had their children taken away because of their relationship with cannabis, and it's pretty upsetting. Most recently, there is a case, this is so sad, in Lansing, Michigan, of a family who their little 6-month-old daughter was taken from them because of the plants that are growing in their home. And the way that the Compassionate Care Act reads in Michigan, and I'm going to get this quote, is there has to be an unreasonable danger that is articulated and substantiated in order for kids to be at risk. So the little girl's mother was told that the plants were causing a risk, the risk of their house being robbed, and so their little 6-month-old daughter Bree was taken from them, and the Department of Human Services couldn't comment specifically on this case, but did say that the court decision for removal is made in the child's best interest. We would look at parenting as being the key factor in that investigation from our standpoint. The spokesperson for the Department of Human Services said, what kind of choices are the parents making when it comes to their children? In this case, it was Green's decision to use marijuana after they were told not to by the Oakland County Court that made it dangerous for Bree to remain in the home. Maria Green said it was her ex-husband who initially told Child Protective Services the Green home was unfit for the child. A Lansing medical marijuana attorney said Oakland County is notorious for wrongly placing charges on medical marijuana patients, and adds that any charge from Oakland County Court shouldn't be given any stock. Well, that doesn't matter because this little girl was taken from them because they were growing medical marijuana. Legally under the Compassion Act, I might add. So those things happen. Those things happen in medical states. There was a ridiculous situation in Colorado. I don't know if it's probably even been a year ago now, where a Papa John's pizza delivery person went to deliver a pizza and smelled marijuana in the home and called the police. I don't know how this gentleman thought that it was his responsibility to do that. I mean, it's for that reason that I would never, ever, 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 ever order Papa John's. Luckily, I don't like pizza anyway, so it's not really a big deal. But I mean, somehow this gentleman thought that and the children were asleep, if I remember this case properly. Like the kid wasn't even. I think the Papa John person saw toys or something. Yeah, ridiculous. But we still have that level of fear over this. My guess is if the dad would have answered the door holding a beer, the pizza delivery person wouldn't have said anything. I mean, there is this stigma that hasn't gone away. And then on sort of the other end of the spectrum, we have parents that are seeing these amazing results in kids who have seizure disorders, for example, and using strains that are high in cannabidiol, CBD versus THC, and they are flocking to Colorado to be able to see a doctor and start their children on these potentially life-saving regimens. And they are still suffering stigma and struggling. And I mean, it's not easy to pick up your whole family and move to Colorado because you are crossing your fingers and hoping that this is going to be the miracle that you've heard it has been. In New Jersey, Governor Christie, who, I mean, you can say a whole bunch of things about Governor Christie. We could spend several shows talking about Governor Christie, but in September, he was forced to make a decision as to whether or not kids would be able to receive medical marijuana in New Jersey. And while he didn't go as far as a lot of us would like, at least kids won't be excluded from their program completely. He does make the hoops that you have to jump through big and arduous, and probably they should be. Maybe not this big, maybe not this arduous, but I mean, we're tipping in the right direction if even Governor Christie can make some decisions. We're putting parents in a position where they are having to beg city officials, to beg legislators and the government to say yes to medicine for their kids. And it seems so ironic to me. I thought that when your child needed medical attention, that the relationship that you needed to build was with your medical professionals, not with your city council, not with your governor, but with your physician and your pediatrician and your nurse practitioner and your pharmacy, and worse than that, than fighting with your insurance company. But we're going to show a video in a second, if you could cue this up, of Jason David in Modesto, California, who had to testify and did a great job in front of Modesto City Council, talking about the need for continued treatment for his child. And we're going to watch that right now. Sorry. That's okay. There we go. Sorry, I hate it when we have to start with the commercials, but check it out, Coach. But in order to get a video, we got to pay the bills too. So I don't even know what this ad is for. Toyota. There we go. Toyota. We'll do a shout out for Toyota since they're letting us play this video. We appreciate it. Thank you very much.
This for kids. It sounds shocking, but this fight is being pushed by parents who want to ease their children's pain. Luana Munoz, live in Modesto, with what those parents wanted from the city council tonight. Luana?
Yeah, Stephanie, surprisingly, we didn't hear any opposition, neither from council members or people in the audience. What we did hear were testimonies from parents who have kids with disabilities. They've been giving their kids pharmaceutical meds for years. They say they haven't been helping until they gave them CBD, which is found in marijuana. And tonight they were asking for safe and legal access to it.
What I'm trying to give to my son is pure, organic CBD.
Jason David stood before the Modesto City Council asking that they help save his son's life, specifically the ability to grow and test his own CBD, which is found in marijuana.
I'm pleading with you guys. Please help us. Please educate. Please help us get this medicine for our children.
Only 2 strains of CBD have helped children like Jason's son, Jaden, who once had 4 seizures a day, sometimes lasting over an hour and a half. After using CBD in a liquid form, Dad says the seizures decreased to 1, lasting at most a minute and a half. David blames Modesto's anti-dispensary ordinance from preventing him from getting the correct dose of CBD.
You're right. Maybe 90% of the people do smoke it because they want to get high. Well, we don't want to get high. We want to save our children's lives. So they're not interested in making this plant. They don't care about it. It's not money for them.
In the audience were several parents, some traveling as far as Bakersfield to support David, like Jackie West, whose son Adam couldn't breathe or move a muscle after 2 brain surgeries.
And then I learned about CBD, and that was in December. And here we are almost a year later. He's not on the breathing machine anymore. He's able to move his arms and his legs.
The testimonies left council members interested in learning more.
Well, this CBD should be available, and I think there should be an effort to make it available. I mean, we're just trying to grow into this situation.
Now, the reason why the dispensaries were banned here in Modesto some years back was because of the negative elements that they brought in. And tonight they said that they're going to listen to both the pros and the cons of CBD and hopefully make a decision come November. Back to you.
Luana, thank you. Call them.
I'd love to hear the cons of CBD. I think that's kind of interesting. But what's so interesting, couple things about that video to me is I like how they really didn't talk about marijuana. They talked about CBD, and they talked about, I mean, I think it was a very intentional verbiage. The message was, we want to be able to grow this strain, and dispensaries don't want to do it because there isn't the market for a low THC, high CBD strain. And you need to know more about this so you, City Council, can make some different choices and different decisions. And so just talking about CBD probably made it easier for the City Council to hear and probably get on that side, because they weren't talking about marijuana. They were just talking about a specific cannabinoid. And that specific cannabinoid seems to be pretty neutral in comparison to the issue that people have with THC. Right or wrong. I mean, the fact of the matter is that's what these parents are looking for. And again, they have to argue with the City Council and with the government and with lawmakers and voters, as opposed to having a closed-door conversation with their physicians. And I have to say, like, I'm really happy that we're in the place where we're having those conversations, and it's much better that those conversations are happening as opposed to this is all happening on the black market and no one's talking about it openly and it's all a big secret and parents are worried about being sent to prison because of this. At least there's some kind of factor that says parents are making good decisions for their kids. And including cannabis in their medication regime, in their healthcare regime for their kids who suffer from some of these really, really challenging, difficult situations. That's a great place to be. We're not there yet, but we should really appreciate the fact that we've come that far. And if the City Council looks at the mom whose son is no longer on a breathing tube and says that that's interesting, then they're heartless. That's far more than interesting. That's phenomenal. That's fantastic. That is life-changing, life-altering. It's not interesting. It's so much more than interesting. So much more than interesting. And that dad and those families, they aren't the only ones. California isn't the only place that's happening. That's happening here. That's happening in Washington State, and that's happening in states across the union where they don't have that ability to purchase medical marijuana, and they certainly don't have the ability to be far enough along in the process where genetics are being developed daily, and there are strains that are being developed to breed in CBD and breed out or lower that THC. We've had Michaela Comstock on. She and her mom were on several months ago. I mean, this is another story in which as part of her medication regime for her cancer treatments, she was being given medical marijuana. I mean, families are smarter than they've ever been about their treatment options, and less fearful about using marijuana, and I don't want them to be fearful at all. I don't want them to be. I mean, as I said before, parenting is hard enough. And then you add a challenging medical condition, and then you add social services and all those kinds of things, and things get way more challenging. It's time for us to take one more break, and then we're going to come back and wrap it up. I'm Georgia. Thanks for listening.
Are you a runner? Are you a runner who supports marijuana legalization? Run on Grass is a group of athletes actively seeking to change our marijuana laws. We speak the truth about cannabis, bringing the message through our feet to new ears. Check out runongrass.com to find out more about us, our events, and how to join up or how to sponsor a runner. If you're in the Denver area, please join us for runs or start a group in your area. Running not your thing? Any sport can do it. On grass. Runongrass.com. Let's face it, rules and regulations are complicated, especially in the field of medical marijuana. Let Medical Marijuana 101 help you get through the compliance process. We can also explain to you your employment requirements, your employees, and your business. But our work doesn't stop there. Our experience in cultivation ranges from the design of grow rooms to the diagnosis and resolution of grow problems. Visit us at www.medicalmarijuana101.com or call 303-388-7706. That's 303-388-7706.
I'm Gary Johnson, and you're listening to iCannabis Radio, and I want to say, talk it up, Colorado.
Hi, welcome back. Thank you so much. So parents out there, continue to stay strong, continue to speak up, continue to get the information that you need, no matter what part of this debate, question, issue you're on, whether you are a patient, whether your kid's a patient, whether you just want to know more about marijuana and want to help give information to your kids, you want to dispel DARE, you want to have information that confirms DARE, whatever you need, just make sure you're getting that good information. And I have to say that PBS Kids and the Neuroscience for Kids pages, those are really helpful. And not just because I agree with the information that they put out there, because I didn't agree with all of it, but it was enough well-rounded that I think it gives a pretty good picture of what our kids need to know. And I really think that, I read something that I didn't share that was talking about how much kids are smoking marijuana, and that they're smoking, young kids are smoking so much that they're throwing up green in the classroom. No, they're not. They're not. Did one person? Maybe. But kids in general are not smoking so much marijuana that they're throwing up green in the classroom. I mean, that's not happening. Don't terrify people like that. Tell the truth. Kids are using a lot more marijuana than they did before. That's what numbers are showing. Okay, why? And what's happening to them? And are they still graduating from high school? Are they going to college? How are their test scores? What does that mean? So if they're smoking marijuana and they're not smoking cigarettes, are they out sick more or less than if they were smoking cigarettes? I mean, let's look at what those numbers mean, as opposed to these studies show that more kids use marijuana than they have before. And interestingly enough, the numbers in Colorado are not the numbers that I gave. Those do not represent the young users in Colorado. Those numbers are actually quite different. That the numbers in Colorado have decreased. The most logical explanation is you take away the whole forbidden fruit thing, and kids are sort of less interested and more likely to do other things, and there you go. And that's been proven in European countries with kids drinking alcohol at a young age, that it's not that interesting anymore. It's just not. So one of the things that is happening and that has been a problem is this whole spice thing, and they call it synthetic marijuana, and I refuse to call it synthetic marijuana because it's not. It is not fake pot. It is spice. It is a totally different chemical compound. It is stupid. But in Colorado, there have been there's been just a rash in this use of spice, and I don't really know what that's all about. But Michael Roberts did an article in the Westword in September. And so he talks about that the Department of Health is showing that there's been a lot of kids using spice, and they have had some pretty negative effects. In September, according to CDPHE, which is the Colorado Department of Health and Environment, around 150 emergency room patient visits have been documented, with just over a third of the cases, 58, generating detailed analysis. Surprisingly, only 19% of them pertain to individuals between 13 and 19 years old, while 44% of such alleged users fall into the 20 to 29 demographic. So these aren't kids who are using this because they can't get marijuana. There's a small percentage of kids under the age of 18, but most of them are in their 20s. Smoking spice seems to be a dude thing. 81% of the patients cited by CDPHE were male. Their symptoms during their hospital trips included disorientation, delirium, confusion, anxiety, lethargy, agitation, paranoia, hallucinations, and seizures. Some were violent, others were comatose. And then they gave a whole bunch of brands of spice. Black Mamba, 5 times Crazy Clownin. This is ridiculous. Look at this. Is that really? I guess that's appealing to somebody. Juggalos, maybe? I don't know. Maybe. Dead Man Walking. It even says not for human consumption on it. Funky Monkey, Crazy Monkey. Doctors don't suggest that users would be better off smoking good old-fashioned marijuana instead of spice, but a study about the accidental ingestion of marijuana edibles focused on the danger to children, not adults, where spice is portrayed as being problematic for just about everyone. Synthetic marijuana products identified as possible sources of illness is a release from the CDPHE talking about how screwed up and terrible it is. So there are things that are actually hurting people. Spice is actually harming people and a lot of people. And if we keep giving misinformation and berating parents about cannabis and ignoring things like spice that's actually causing harm to people, we are spending our resources in the wrong way for sure. Parents out there, please talk to each other. Please, if you've got parenting tips, if you've got things that you say or do or want to say or do that work for you, if you want to share those, put them on the iCannabis Radio Facebook page. Message me. Let's get that information out there, because the more that we can help each other and the more that we can get good information out there for our kids, the better. Because really, the government says that they speak for our kids.
Bullshit.
Drug-free America says they speak for our kids. No, you speak for your kid. I speak for mine, and I speak very loudly, and you get to also. So don't let other people speak for you. Make some decisions, get some information for yourself, and make sure that you're speaking for your kids. So, iCannabis Radio, lots of stuff going on. I've been telling you for several weeks that this show is going to have some pretty significant changes pretty soon, and I'm not going to tell you what yet. But what I will tell you is that opposites attract in every way, shape, or form, and I'm just going to put that out there. Absolutely. Also, some exciting things, as you guys know, on Friday we had the first episode of Reefer Madness Radio with Citizen J and Mark. Listen up, guys. It was a great show, 6:30 to 7:30 every Friday evening. Check them out. They are fantastic. We also have a new show starting this Wednesday, CD Wednesday with Adam Dunn from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. every Wednesday. And then Thursday, of course, is the Hemp Connoisseur from 4 to 5 p.m. And Mondays always remain the same. In the Lab with Jennifer and Tamar is on from 3 to 4. And then, of course, I'll be back on Monday evenings at 7. And it's going to look different. It's going to feel different. It's going to be different. I'm pretty excited. I'll give you more information when we get closer to that time, but be listening. I'd like to thank my sponsors, Mile High Wellness, Noto Urban Garden Supply, Cuffle Collimore and Company, Edson Maton and Mats, Medical Marijuana of the Rockies, Medical Marijuana 101, and Run on Grass. You've been listening to iCannabis Radio. My name is Georgia. Thank you so much. And you can't parent wrong. The only thing you can do is not parent at all. Thanks so much for listening. I'll see you guys next week.